Hello everybody, it's me, Undead Viking. I'm back in the saddle, doing some reviews. I do apologize for the extended hiatus in between my last review and this one. In between that, actually pretty much like right after I did my last review, my son was born. So I've been doing a lot of working and taking care of my family, and having two kids is like 10 times the work. If somebody had told me that, well, I probably still would have had my son, because he's pretty awesome. But still, I was not expecting it. But he started to sleep more than 3 hours at a time now, and so I've found the time to do these reviews. And by reviews, I mean I've got a lot of work to catch up on. I've been playing a lot of games because it's easy to schedule like 2 hours and play a game. But it is very difficult for me to do this because the whole process of doing a video review actually takes a lot more than 2 hours. A lot more. So I haven't been able to do this, but I have tons of notes and tons of games that I've been playing, and now, with extra time and perhaps some zeroed-in focus, I'm going to do more. But enough about that. Oh, and you may have guessed, I'm actually filming this in my game room. I now have a game room. I finished my basement in my house, and I have a nice little, 12 by 14 game room now. I have the ubiquitous giant wall of games behind me, and yeah, so it's pretty cool now. So hopefully, also, because I have this, I don't have to contend with my family, interrupting these reviews. And I can get back on track, as well as having my own little spot to do these in. So, the game we're reviewing, as you probably already know, is Warparty. Warparty is a game that's in Kickstarter right now, and so that means that it hopefully will be published. I think, well, I don't know if it's met its goal yet or not, but I know it's very close. So if it meets that goal, the game will be published, and then people that have purchased the game will get first cracks, at the game. And it's a game for 2 to 4 people. It's a fantasy war game. So, ooh, war game. Now, okay, war game has a lot of connotations to it, but I do consider this a war game. Yeah, I believe it's going to be published, if and when it gets published, by Lock and Load Publishing, if I'm remembering correctly, and they are predominantly known as a war game and simulation publisher, and they actually made one of the games that I really enjoyed. All Things Zombie, I think it was called. But anyway, so yes, this is a game that is going to be about chits, and it's going to be about giant stacks of armies going up head to head, toe to toe, trying to knock each other out of the park, and trying to take over and destroy another person's capital city. And it's a lot of fun, and it's got a lot of things going on. So I'm going to dive into kind of an overview of the rules, and I'm going to show you some of the things that I'm going to highlight, to show you what you're going to be playing if you decide to get the game. And then I'm going to tell you exactly what I think about this particular game, and maybe after all is said and done, after you've done watching this review, you can decide whether or not this is something that you will want to add to your collection. So, alright, well, it's good to be back. Now let's dive into the overview of the rules and the gameplay. Here we go. Alright, this is the game board map, whatever, for Warparty. Before I get into the gameplay, a couple of things. One, there's absolutely no way I could do a full-fledged every single bit and piece of this game as far as how the game is played. So this is going to be an overview. I do apologize. I know some of you really enjoy my lengthy reviews, but this one, I tried to do it, and it was longer than some of my hour-long reviews I've done. So I really scaled this one back. Secondly, obviously, this is a prototype version, so I can't guarantee that what you're going to see here is going to be exactly what's going to be created when they publish this game. So, keep that in mind. I think it'll be very much like this, but once again, I don't want to tell you, oh, this is exactly what it looks like, and then it isn't, and then I'll get like 3 nasty emails, and I'll feel bad. So anyway, just some quick things about the board, just so you understand how this works. In the 4 corners, those are the capital cities of the different factions. You have the undead up here, the dwarves over there, goblins over here, and the humans over here. You can see that the allies are diagonal from each other. And you will see that there are some dungeons. Dungeons are investigated by heroes that you can hire. And when they go into dungeons, they fight monsters, and if they are successful, they'll get treasure. I'll explain that a little further in detail in just a little bit. You'll notice that there's some numbers on the board. It should be noted that in some places don't have any numbers. It should be noted that the numbers are the resources that you'll, in the form of money, that you will earn by controlling that particular location. Now, if it doesn't have a number on it, that doesn't mean it isn't worth anything. It's worth 1. But if it's worth more than 1, it's noted. And you can notice that right outside the home area, you'll see that you can see the capitals are worth 5, and right outside that, everyone's got some nice lush farmland that is worth extra, as far as resources goes. You'll notice also there's some forests and some mountains. Forests and mountains are rough terrain, unless if you're dwarves like the mountains, so they don't consider it to be rough terrain. And goblins like the forest, they don't consider it to be rough terrain. So, it doesn't cost them anything extra to go through that. But if you are happen to be undead or human, they aren't. And there are flying units, so obviously flying units can go over that, of course. Rivers, if you try to cross the river at a non-bridge location, it costs extra to go across. And the lake in the middle is impassable, unless, of course, you can fly over it. Pretty standard. You choose sides to begin the game. You roll a die. Whichever side gets the highest roll, they go. It should be noted that the allies, if you're playing this 4 players, and this is a really fun 4-player game, if you're playing this 4 players, everybody, the allies move at the same time. So, it isn't like, okay, the dwarves go, okay, the humans go. And that speeds things up. And it also allows the allies to kind of work together and say, hey, should we go do this? Should we go do that? And so on and so forth. You can probably guess the beginning of each game kind of starts the same. You get your starting units. And it should be noted that the people that go first get 1 less starting unit. They have 9 infantry to start with. If you are the team that goes second, you get 10. And then the game almost always starts the same. People just move out slowly, take that lush farmland that's around it, and then after they've done that and they've collected their money a few turns and they've built up a nice little army, that's when they start branching out and they move out and out towards these areas in the middle that are worth more. They start hitting up those dungeons. They start trying to expand, and that's when people start butting heads and they go into combat. Now, before I touch on combat, I will get to that. I'm just going to say one thing also that happens in each game. These are called quest cards. Obviously, I sincerely doubt they will look like this when the final game comes. But quest cards have just some little added bonus that tells the owner that what they have to do, and then they will get something for doing so. Each person gets 2 of these at the beginning of the game. They look and decide which one they want, and they discard the other one, and they keep one, and they try to do that quest. You can never show your quest to your ally or anyone else. If you do, it's considered to be disqualified. You don't get it. So, but I mean, like for example, it's just like Scorched Earth. It says, destroy an enemy city, and if you do it, 5 crowns. Any hero that assists in burning his city receives 5 extra experience points. So it's just something a little extra that you can have, and you have it down in front of you, and then it's like, I burned your city, and you get extra for doing that. Really cool. I like these because. After you play the game a couple times, you kind of, you will, there's a ton of these, obviously, and there might even be more when the real game comes out. But, it's just an added little fun twist to the game. So, you have your starting armies, you have your quest, and now you've begun the game, and you're starting to move forward. Now, combat is both simple yet fun, and also has got a little bit to it. I'm just going to show you like what one of these little units looks like. And you can see, obviously, this is a little dwarf warrior. And you can see he has an attack value, which is this number, it's 3, and he has a defense value of 2. Now, what does that mean to you, the guy who owns this particular unit? That means that if you attack with this guy, you need to roll a 3 or less to hit, and if you're defending with him, you need to roll a 2 or less to defend. Now, this is kind of neat. I'm so used to playing games like Axis and Allies, where if my guy gets shot, there's nothing really I can do about it. I can't defend, but you do get a chance to roll a 6-sided die and try to defend. That's really cool. Now, what's really awesome about this is that usually you'll have several of these guys in one location. You'll have them all stacked up in a neat little pile, and maybe you'll even have like this little one of these little pony riders instead. Like this guy's. And I should notice that thing up there? That means that the pony rider, because he's riding a pony, it's his movement. He can go 2 spaces instead of just 1. So, like, you have this little stack there. Well, when you decide to fight, what we usually do, and which makes sense to, and it's actually suggested in the rules, we actually remove all the armies that are involved in the combat, and we set them out in front of us. And away from... Because if you have like a giant army, you're spreading them out, you start forgetting which guy was supposed to be where and what have you. So what happens is that you kind of spread these guys out, and then the attacker, rolls first. And the really cool thing is that you actually get to decide where you attack. Now, that doesn't mean you can attack like the most powerful thing right away, because there are what's called rows of fighters, and none of these guys. If these guys were in a different row, you'd see a symbol down here that would tell you row 2 or row 3. And the game progresses. It's kind of like you have to kill off everything in the first row before you can go to the second row, before you can go to the third row. So you just basically say, okay, this warrior is going to attack that undead warrior. You roll the die, see if you hit. If you hit, then the other player needs to roll their defense, and you just progress on like that. Now, it doesn't seem really cool, but when you have a giant stack of these, like you have 10, 11 armies in one spot, and you got a nice little row of guys, in all your different rows, and the other guy's got his stacked up, and you got it like set aside, and we actually use like another board actually that I have, just like a little dry erase board, and we just put that on top here, and then we set it up, and it's really fun. You line it all up, and you're kind of cursing your rolls and trying to roll really well, and you're getting upset when the other people obviously take out your guys that you spent your hard-earned gold on, and so on and so forth. And that's how combat works. There's a lot more to it than just those simple little rules that I gave you. I mean, there are lots of different units that are available, and there's no way I can go through all of them. But if you'll notice, and then each one, I have one of these for each faction, and here's undead, and the humans, and the goblins, and the dwarves. And they actually have several different ones. Their attack and defenses are much different. There's tons of special abilities that they have, and so I apologize that I can't go through each and every one of them, but there's more than just a simple line of infantrymen bashing each other over the head with their clubs, and there's tons to it. But now, let me talk about the heroes for a little bit. And because the heroes kind of, for me anyway, really make the game shine, and makes the game lots of fun. Now, each side has heroes that they can recruit. And they're specific heroes, and they have specific abilities. And they come in as a priest, or a mage, or a warrior, and they gain levels as they fight. And so, let me just... So, like, here's, Carnissa. She's obviously very evil and a vampire. And here's Fraculon. He's also very evil as well. And Shredmar, and he's like a lycanthrope, obviously. Now, the heroes get to move around the board, and they can join armies and they can fight. And obviously, you know, they're much more powerful than your average unit. And if they're involved in combats where they actually, you know, manage to, they don't have to actually be the ones that kill it, but if they're involved in combat where other units are killed and cities are burned and things like that, they gain experience points. And when they gain experience points, they gain levels. And when they gain levels, they gain more powers. And they become more and more powerful. They can take more damage, they can do more damage, and a lot of times what happens is they are able to cast spells. And now I'm going to touch on spells, because the spell part of the game actually, in a way, is probably what keeps everybody in check, as far as, you know, because you never know, you know, what spells the other people are going to cast, and what kind of effect they're going to have. Each group has its own spell cards, like, and here's the undead spell cards. And these, like, each one of these, like, it has a cool little picture in the front end. And you know, for a prototype, this guy, they created this is really, really, really nice. Well, but so you can see it says second level pre-spell up there. It says Raise Dead, and well, we can probably guess that is. But then there's a full description of the ability of Raise Dead in the back. And once your heroes gain these levels, you get access to these spells, and you get to cast them. And, you know, which, you know, once again, it's just an added wrinkle of something that, you know, it does increase the complexity of the game just a little bit, but it makes it that much more fun. Now, finally, the coolest thing, of course, that they get to do as heroes is they get to go into the dungeons. And when they go in the dungeons, you have these monster cards. And you draw, like, depending on the dungeon, it'll tell you what you're supposed to draw. But, like, if it just tells you to draw a monster, like, you'll draw, and here we go, the Hydra. And then it'll tell you what the attack and defense, how many hits it has, how much experience points if you actually get, you know, crowns, that's how much money you'd make if you kill it. And also, do you get treasure, and it'll tell you to draw treasure cards. And that's when, once again, another cool thing, let me get them out here. When you get to draw the treasures, obviously these are the things that are going to help your army. So here we go, we got treasure cards. And so you have these cool, like, and you see there's different tiers. This one's a tier 2, you know, and then there's other ones that are, you know, less. So if you remember that correctly, that Hydra said you got a tier 1 and a tier 2. So here's a tier 1. So you can see you got that. Ooh, a Scroll of Resurrection. And then here's like a tier 2. And then a magic Tome of Power. And so now you get more options, more things available to you. And, you know, these are really, really, really helpful. And they can really turn the tide in a great many different ways, you know, when you're playing the game. And so going into those dungeons and fighting those monsters, while dangerous, because, you know, those monsters can be pretty tough, are very, very lucrative and very, very, can be game-changing for you. Now, like I said, I'm sorry this wasn't like a straight turn-by-turn. There's so many different things about the game that I wasn't able to touch on. There's like inflation. Once people start making way too much money, you know, because they built cities out there, because you can build cities, because that's the only place you can place units is on cities. Once you start earning so much money in a turn, inflation sets in, and so all the creatures start costing double. And then if it gets even higher, you know, it'll quadruple. So I mean, you know, your creatures will cost even more and more as the game goes on. And so there's this feeling of kind of like impending doom. You know, I mean, it's just like pretty soon it's just you're this land that you're fighting over. You're squeezing the money out of it. You're squeezing the resources out of it, and you're running it dry. And that's actually what they refer to it in the game. And so when that happens, it's like you can feel the game is reaching its end, and it's just it's pushing you towards, you know, that last final gasp and try to take over somebody's main capital, and that's the main way you win. If you are able to move into a capital city and maintain control of it for a turn, meaning nobody comes in and boots you out, basically. You're able to raise it to the ground, and you don't have to do both. You just have to do one of them. And if you're able to do that, then whichever side is able to do that wins the game. There is an economic victory as well if you basically totally and completely dwarf the other side's earning power, the combined. Like one side is way ahead of the other one. That's on the way to end the game. And also, what happens sometimes is you will concede defeat as well if you just realize that your position in the game is untenable and you're unable to muster any sort of defense to take out the other team. But that's Warparty. I invite you to read the rules at the Kickstarter website. They're very, very well laid out and very, very well written, and you can kind of get a grasp of everything. And there's some excellent descriptions of combat listed there as well. So yeah. Well, let me tell you exactly what I think about this game, and maybe it'll help you figure out if it's something you want to back with the project. All right, let's go that way. All right, cool. So, what'd you think about that? Sorry I couldn't do every little nuance and everything like that. I'm trying to like as I said, the review would have been super long. I'm trying to get away from doing huge long rules overviews, especially for games that already have those. And the designer of the game already has a really, really good a video that kind of describes how the game flow goes. And so I invite you to maybe go to the Kickstarter page and watch that if you want a really good in-depth description. But that being said, what do I think of the game? I really like it. I've played it with my group now a few times, several times, and we've all really, really enjoyed it. There's so much about it that that really stands out for me. When I was younger, a lot of people when they say when the first the first board game they played that really wasn't just your standards, your clues or your monopolies. A lot of people will say, "Well, I play a lot of Risk," and I remember and technically Risk is kind of like a war game, right? But it isn't a serious war game. But I remember with me, Risk, I used to play Risk all the time with my friends when I was younger, much younger. And I remember when I got a hold of a copy of Axis and Allies, that was for me, that was wow, it's like Risk on steroids, And also it was about World War II, and it was ooh, World War II tanks and bombers and battleships, and that was really cool. But I had a friend, and he's still my friend, Justin, and he was really into war games. And he picked up tons of those old Avalon Hill games, and he would get me to come over and he'd want me to play these games. But I mean, one, I couldn't grasp them like he could. I mean, his mind worked on a different level as far as the strategy goes. And two, I just didn't get what the big deal was, why it was so cool about moving these little tiny pieces of paper around the thing. I mean, I wanted a tank that I moved, and I can envision it shooting and blowing things up, right? But he just totally dug it. And I played a few of them, but I mean, I don't think we ever finished anything. And ultimately, he just kind of stopped calling me, inviting me over, and he just played those games solo. And, more power to him. And for people out there that are solo wargamers, more power to you, man. I wish I, one, had the time to do that, and two, I had the passion. But regardless, I've wanted to play war games. But I don't have the time, and I don't have the base of friends that are willing to give it a try. The closest we've come, and it is a war game. We've played Here I Stand a few times, and I love that game. It's awesome. But that's neither here nor there. My problem is that war games are tough to get to my table, for one, because it's such an investment of time and effort, and two, I never really had a place to store a game. Now I do. So I might actually be playing more war games. But a game like this gives me the feel and the taste of a war game, but it's condensed. It's you play this game in 3 hours, less even. And it's the perfect combination of It's got lots of stuff going on, lots of fiddliness, if you will, and that's not a bad thing in my opinion at all. A lot of people say it's fiddly and it's bad. No, it's not a bad thing. It's got a lot going on. Different units with different attack powers and different abilities, different spells, dungeons, and research, and all this other stuff going on that you got to keep track of in your head. And but it's also accessible. And it's not difficult to play. Go read the rule book. The rule book reads so nicely and so easily, and you know, I'm sure there's a thing or two they'll change when the final version comes out, but the rulebook is amazingly well done, and you'll agree with me. But it maintains that war game feel. Now there's a game that just came out a little bit ago, Conquest of Narath, and I picked that up because I thought, oh cool, you know, war and D&D and all this stuff, and it looked cool. And it looked nice, and it felt cool. And I played it a few times with my friends, but I ended up just selling it off because it was so boring. It was just buy the same units, fight the same battles, repeat, repeat, repeat. And I couldn't get into the game, and it felt almost like it was abstract. I didn't feel like I was part of the game at all. But in this game, I feel like I'm telling a story. I feel like I'm having an epic battle. And I feel like I'm actually making nice strategic choices, and I'm not just losing because I rolled poorly on a couple of dice. Yes, there is some luck in this game, and there's some chaos, but that's what you should expect with any game of dice. It walks that fine line between fun and strategy for me and my group. And it does it perfectly. If it had leaned either way, I probably wouldn't have liked it. But for what it is, it's exactly what I want, and I mean, I'm really, really looking forward to getting an actual, like, the published version. Not that my version's awesome, trust me, but I want to see what it looks like, and I want to have that nice box to put on it instead of just, you know, because I don't have a nice box, and I mean, I'm a big fan of the cool looking box too. So if you're looking for a game that it's got some meat to it, it's going to make you think, and it's going to make you strategize. But also, you know, a war game that you can sit down and play relatively quickly, and it isn't going to be super complex. So if you're looking for something that, like a super complex war game, it isn't like, but a game that's going to feed that you know, light to medium war game, I guess, you know, hunger, and also a really cool theme that isn't just World War II over and over again, and not to bash on World War II or anything like that, but I mean, this is a theme that I could actually get into. You know, it was fantasy, and like, so these are epic fantasy battles that I watch and they play out in my head as we roll the dice and we see things happen. If that's what you're looking for, I heartily recommend Warparty, and I definitely think you should go and support it, and then when it comes out, you'll be like the first person on your block to have a copy. So, well, there you go. If you have any questions or concerns, please leave them, and I'll try to answer them as best as I possibly can. I thank you very much for taking the time to watch this review, and for my repeated fans, I thank you very much for sticking with me during this hiatus, and you know, waiting for my next review. And like I said, I got tons of reviews coming up, and hopefully I can get more than one done a week. And plus, number 100 is coming up, and we know what that is. It's Arkham Horror, my all-time favorite game. So, until the next time, this is Undead Viking. Thank you very much, and I will see you soon.